What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the fifth episode of the Crossroads, a weekly financial show for our generation. And on this week's episode, we're going to be talking about how to make the decision between what the actual best financial decision is, like mathematically, and what the best decision for you personally is. And this is something that I talk about a lot. I know Thomas does too, because personal finance is just way more personal than it is finance. And like you can go online and like look up like mortgage calculators and just different calculators to determine what the best decision is by the numbers, but that just isn't always the best decision for you.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the quote that everybody thinks of is that personal finance is more personal than it is finance. Exactly what you said. But I think that in theory, that sounds really easy. But in real life, I think it's hard for people to decide which is better. And so I think the best way to start for this is talking about like an example of where we see this happening. And so one that I just, had a conversation with a client about is, college planning for their kids. So the best financial decision is going to say you should do a 529 plan. You can get the tax deduction. In some states you get a tax credit, and you understand that, like, okay, hey, based on that, based on investment growth, based on being able to take the money out tax free, this is probably the best account to use for college. But does that mean it's the best account for every parent to use? No, probably not. So in the conversation I was having with this client, I was asking, hey, what do you think college is going to look like in the future? And their answer really was, well, I don't know. I feel like there has to be change. Like, college can't keep going up in price. I just don't really see it being the same. And I said, okay, great. Well, do you think your kids are going to go to college? And he said, well, we want them to go to college, but also, like, if there was a different way for them to do it, or they went to trade school or whatever, like, we would fully support that. And I said, okay, great. So here's the benefit of a 529 plan in your state. What do you think of that? And they said, I can understand why that's valuable, but I just, with the way I see college going in the future, I don't think I want to put my money into an account that lacks the flexibility that you'll pay the penalty on in the future. And so then we came up with, okay, hey, great. For this person, the best money decision for them was, let's put that money in a taxable account because it offers flexibility, it aligns with their viewpoints, and it's just the best for them individually as a family. And I think the other good example that people talk about, which we're also going to hit to at the end, is like a mortgage. And so the best decision financially is to not pay off your mortgage quicker. I mean, you have a 2.5%, you have a 3% mortgage rate, and the average in the market is going to be 8%. So a textbook is going to tell you, hey, you should always pay the minimum on your mortgage and go invest the difference. But that doesn't mean it's the best answer for everybody. You sit down with that person who says, I hate debt. Like, it'd be super freeing to not have a mortgage payment. If I got rid of this mortgage payment, then maybe, my wife could stay at home because she doesn't have to keep doing a job she hates, because now we'd save $2,500 a month. Okay, great. Now I understand for that person that the best money decision for them is to just pay off that mortgage quicker, because it'll be freeing. It'll let them allow them to live their life. It'll let her to stop working her job. So now it creates this, it might not be the best textbook answer. You might not have as much investment growth, but it's going to create a better life for you. So that's the better decision that you should make.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. And even to kind of add on to that mortgage part is like the difference between renting and buying. Like you can run the numbers and determine what makes the most sense. And I mean, looking at it, like most people would probably say, "Oh yeah, you should buy a home because you can build up equity, and if you're renting, you're just wasting money." And I mean, that's just not necessarily true. Like I'm renting right now, you're renting right now because I mean, for a lot of different reasons, but one of the biggest is like, how long do you plan on living in that space? And it's like coming out of college or being a young professional, like there's so many opportunities that are going to happen in life where it might make sense to move, but if you just bought a house last year, that's going to end up costing a lot more because you have to go through closing costs and like the actual process of selling a home and then finding a new home in a new city. And like just looking at the numbers, it's like, yeah, you should probably get a home because renting's throwing money away. But when you look at like how that applies to your actual situation, that just might not even be the case whatsoever.
Yeah, I think let's even take that a step further, because let's go to the opposite side of it. Let's say you have a young family. They don't want to rent. Like, it just is not enough space. They maybe could go rent a house, but it's been pretty hard to do. And a lot of times when you rent a house, you can you can have the person who owns the house could say, hey, we actually are going to increase the price, and we're going to, or they could say, hey, we're actually going to sell now, or, hey, actually this is the last year that you guys are going to be in, and we have somebody else coming in. And you might be kind of scared of that and know, hey, we might only be living in this area for 4, 5, 6 years. Based on that and the numbers, it might make more sense to rent. But you have a young family, you really value having a yard, you also don't know how long that you're going to stay there. And so maybe for you, the best financial decision would be rent, but you choose to buy because you just have all of those reasons of having the home, having the yard, having the space. And you truly understand that the best money decision probably was renting, but the best decision for you and your family to live out the life that you want, to be able to do the things that you want to do, to host people, it made sense for you to buy that house. So maybe you should go buy that house.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great point. And even, I mean, another example for me personally is the decision between leasing a car and buying a car. Like, I have a paid off car right now. I've had it for, I think, 8 years now. And I mean, just based off my own personal preference, like as soon as I'm able to afford a lease payment on probably a Tesla, like that's what I'm going to do. Like I've just kind of based on my own like money script and my own money story. Like I've never had a car that gets over 18 miles to the gallon, and I've never had a car that has automatic windows or automatic door locks. Like just super small little things like that. I'm like, I want a nice car at least once in my life, and as soon as I'm able to genuinely afford like the lease payments for it to make sense for me, like that's what I'm going to do. I know it's not the best decision, but it's just something that I'm putting into my own financial plan and I'm planning for. Like I'm saving a lot of money right now by not having a car payment whatsoever. I just have liability. I don't have full coverage. So I can kind of take that savings right now to put towards a lease payment. Maybe it's only 3 years. So then as soon as that's over, I might decide to continue leasing or decide to get a new car. But the important thing is I'm building that into my plan. Like that's what truly matters is how are you planning for what you want to do.
No, I agree. Honestly, that was going to be the next example I used. And again, like, leasing might not be the better decision, but if you're like, I know a lot of girls that lease, they're like, hey, I hate taking care of my car. Like half time I go into an auto body shop and they always upsell me. And I'm not trying to just say like girl versus guy or whatever, but this is just in a client that I had. And these are the examples that she used. And she said, like, I just hate having to deal with all that stuff. So I would rather lease knowing that I'm always pretty much gonna have a new car. It's always going to be, easy to get things fixed up. I don't really have to worry about it. And so for her, she understood, that money could be best served elsewhere. But for her in her life, she just really liked to do that. So I think what we can do is we can keep adding more examples because I don't know exactly how we planned this was going to go, but other examples I think like another one that comes to my mind is there are some people that say you should max out all of your retirement accounts. You should put 19,500 into your 401k. You should do 6,000 to your Roth, which that one I kind of stick with. But like maybe that isn't the best bet for you. Like me personally, I don't put above the match into my 401k because I value flexibility. I have no idea what I'm going to want to pursue in life. I know I'm a builder. I know I love starting this business. I know I love building this business. I could see myself, when my kids are at a certain age, taking a year sabbatical and wanting to travel with them. I could, there's just a million things that I could see happening. And it's probably not even going to be any of the ones that happen in my head, but I would rather take advantage of a taxable account, store way more money away there. I know I'm going to lose out a little bit on the tax-free growth and, tax deferred growth for some accounts. But to me, that the added flexibility to pursue things I want in my life is way more valuable than taking advantage of every tax benefit that exists.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I kind of fell into that same situation when I came out of college. I had a decent job paying like 45,000 a year and they had a great 401k match, but I also knew I wanted to start a business within a couple of years after graduating. So I wasn't even really contributing to my 401k at all. Like the company still put in money even though I wasn't contributing, which was awesome. But I contributed towards just my Roth IRA and a little bit towards the taxable and was saving everything else because I knew I needed that liquidity within the next couple of years, which would just be like someone if they knew that they were going to be buying a house in the next couple of years. Like you might not want to put that in the market because the market can do anything. And just kind of knowing what your potential plans are and planning, like you were saying, planning for that flexibility of when you're young, a lot of things can change. Like you might discover a new passion, you might learn that you want to do something else, and just having flexibility and not necessarily having all your money tied up in retirement accounts is a great option for a lot of people too.
Yeah, I talk about this one a lot. And I feel like in my head, I don't know if this is a quote or I just made this up, but I just like, I want planning to be about like planning for flexibility in the future to pursue things you've never even thought about you're going to want to pursue. Like, I think that I'm going to have to go tweet that after this because I think that's like kind of how I want to define my financial planning when I'm doing for clients because I think we just, I think as a summary to this, we just spend so much time on like what is the most optimal thing to do or what is the best way to take advantage of the tax system. And while we do want to do some of that, it's not all about that. If you do those things and then you're not able to go, pursue those things that you want in your 30s and 40s because you took that approach, well then all of the mathematical benefits didn't actually benefit your life, which at the end of the day all money is a tool to live the life that you want. It's not money as a tool to skip taxes. Like that's just not really what it's about.
Yeah, and I mean, I always revert back to that quote of money's just a tool to get you where you want to be, and without taking the time to figure out where you want to be, like making the right money decisions is hard because it really is just a tool to get you closer to whatever it is. If your main goal is maxing out 401k accounts, then that's what you should be doing. But it's like if you want to have that flexibility, then you probably shouldn't be maxing out the 401k unless you have a lot higher income and you can kind of fund everything at the same time. But yeah, money's truly just a tool to get you where you want to be, and you got to figure out where you want to go first.
Exactly. Anything else for you to add there? I feel like that kind of summarizes my thoughts.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add. And the reader question this week kind of plays into what we were talking about earlier on just kind of talking about what's the difference between a 15 and a 30-year mortgage, and just kind of what to think about on how to decide on which one to go with.
Yeah, I think that's a good question because like Dave Ramsey's of the world and other people are always going to say do the 15-year mortgage because the 15-year mortgage saves you the most on interest. So I think this can be a hard question to answer because that is true. But then there's also the other side of it. Well, okay, great. If you pick the 30-year, invested that difference, mathematically you're probably going to end up in a better spot. So it's how do you choose? Okay, well we can go back to what we were talking about before of hey, well, if you really hate debt, you really want to get rid of your mortgage quicker, then you probably want to do that 15-year. But this is where I don't push 15-year mortgages for people is because of the lack of flexibility that it creates. And so when you think about, hey, I have a 15-year mortgage, so the difference between a 15-year and a 30-year mortgage could be, $1,000 more a month for the average person. So, okay, great. Instead of $1,500 a month, now I'm spending $2,500 a month. Okay, like, can I afford that now? Sure. But can I afford that in 5 years? What if I end up having, twins and now living expenses are way higher? Or what happens if I decide I want to pursue this business idea? Or what if I want to, go work somewhere else where I'm going to make less money? And now I can't do any of those things because I can't afford the monthly payment of the 15-year mortgage. So then the next thing people normally say is, well, what if I could, well, I'll just refinance then at that point. No, like that's just an unfair thought because what if like right now mortgage rates are great. Sure, you can refinance right now, life looks good. But what if 5 years from now interest rates are high and you'd have to refinance from a 3% 15 to a 6% at a 30-year mortgage? You'd basically be paying a pretty similar payment. And so you can't always count on refinancing to move back to a later date. It may be possible, but then we're just banking on interest rates staying the same, which we have no idea about.
Exactly. Like that's so far out of our control. And it's like buying a home right now, like even just buying a home right now can be challenging to find a place that's appropriately priced. But like with interest rates so low right now, if you can lock that in for 30 years and just guarantee you're going to be paying 2.5, 3.5%, like you can just kind of project out the numbers over time on exactly what you're going to be paying. And like you were talking with the flexibility, like you can pay generally can pay off a 30-year mortgage quicker, but you can't necessarily just turn a 15 into a 30. So I mean, I'm a general supporter of the 30-year just because the opportunity cost of being able to invest that difference of the monthly payments between the 30 and the 15, and you can generally pay off a 30-year quicker if you want to, but you can't you can't just turn a 15 into a 30 that easy.
Yes, that is a huge point. I think that I do understand that like typically a 30 year comes with a little higher of interest rate. So maybe you're gonna get a 2.5 on a 15, and maybe you're gonna get a 2.8 to 2.9 on a 30 year. And that kind of stinks, obviously. But you can pay it off quicker, like you said. That is the biggest thing is you can change and accelerate a payment, but you can't decelerate the 15 year unless you refinance, which we kind of talked about that you can't bank on. So I think the moral of this whole podcast to us is like planning for flexibility is probably the best thing you can do as a young person. It's way different if you're a retiree and things, but like when you are in your 20s and 30s, you have so much of life left to live, and we have no idea what we're going to want to do in the future. And so the best thing that you could do yourself is create a plan that allows for flexibility to pursue whatever that you want to pursue. So that 30-year mortgage gives you that benefit. I guess if you're somebody that feels, really safe, you're going to keep your same job, you are like, you're not going to pursue many different things, and you want to save on the interest and you hate debt, then you can definitely choose the 15-year mortgage. But I just think for most people, the 30-year mortgage is going to make more sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I think just kind of like you were saying, like the main takeaways from this are personal finance is more personal than finance. And I mean, you really just have to evaluate your own situation. And the second takeaway is money's just a tool to get you where you want to be. And I think like just really contextualizing those 2 points and taking them in and figuring out how that applies to your situation is going to leave you in a lot better spot for sure.
Exactly. So I think that's a great way to end. So thanks everybody for listening. Go subscribe, go like the podcast, go like our YouTube, if you like
Yeah.
us, follow us. We love creating this content and helping educate people. And, we never say this, but if you ever are looking for an advisor to help you navigate all these decisions, we're always here. So thanks for listening, everybody.